no idea what she's doing. That's what my mother-in-law told my husband the night before our daughter's kindergarten graduation. I know because he left his phone on the counter, screen up, while I was standing right there making Lily's lunch for the next day. I didn't say anything. I just kept spreading peanut butter on the bread. That was a Tuesday. By the following Monday, she had lost the one thing she cared about more than anything in this world, and it wasn't because of anything dramatic I did. It was because of one email, 3 sentences, that I sent on a Wednesday morning while Lily was eating her cereal and watching cartoons. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Megan, and at the time this happened, I was 32 years old, working as a licensed CPA at a mid-size accounting firm in Columbus, Ohio. Not flashy, not the kind of job people ask about at dinner parties. I wore cardigans, I drove a Honda, I packed my own lunch. Nobody at my in-laws' holiday table ever once asked what I did for work, and if they did, they moved on fast. My husband, I'll call him my ex-husband now because that's what he is. His name is Marcus. We met in our mid-20s, got married at 28, had Lily at 30. For the first couple of years, things were okay. Not great, but okay. His mother, Patricia, and before anyone says anything, yes, that's her actual name and I'm not protecting her, ran a small but successful interior design business in the suburb where Marcus grew up. She had opinions about everything. The way I cooked, the way I dressed, the fact that I went back to work 6 weeks after having Lily instead of staying home. She never said these things to my face directly. She said them to Marcus. And Marcus, to his credit at the time, usually just nodded and changed the subject. His sister, Amber, was worse in a quieter way. She smiled at everything I said and then repeated it back to Marcus later with a different framing. Megan said she doesn't really enjoy family dinners, when what I had actually said was, I get a little overwhelmed when everyone talks at once. That kind of thing. Small. Consistent. Intentional. I want to be clear. I tried. For 4 years I tried. I showed up to every birthday, every cookout, every Sunday dinner that was more interrogation than meal. I brought food. I asked questions. I laughed at jokes I didn't find funny. I made myself smaller and smaller and smaller, and the smaller I got, the more comfortable they became. Lily's kindergarten graduation was on a Thursday afternoon in May. The school sent home save the dates in March. I texted Patricia and Amber both in March. I reminded them in April. I called Patricia the week before and she said, and I quote, "We'll be there, Megan. Relax." On the morning of the graduation, Marcus got a text from Amber. I didn't see it, but I heard the call that followed. He stepped into the garage and lowered his voice, but our house is small and the door wasn't fully closed. Amber and her husband had gotten last-minute tickets to a Reds game, corporate box seats apparently. A client of her husband's had offered them. She was sorry. They'd make it up to Lily. Marcus came back inside. He looked at the floor for a second and then said, "My mum's not coming either. She said she has a vendor meeting she forgot about." I looked at him. He looked at me. "Lily's been talking about this for 2 months," I said. "I know. She made a card for them. She drew their faces on it." "I know, Megan. Are you going to call your mom back?" He picked up his keys. "Let's just focus on today." I stood in the kitchen for about 30 seconds after he walked out to warm up the car. Then I took a breath, went to Lily's room, and helped her put on the little white dress she'd picked out herself. She had insisted on the white dress because, in her words, it looks like a real graduation. At the school, the kids sat in folding chairs in the gym with construction paper mortarboards taped to their heads. They sang 2 songs. The teacher read each child's name and said one thing they were proud of about each kid. When she got to Lily, she said, "Lily always makes sure nobody sits alone at lunch." I had to press my thumbnail into my palm to keep from crying. On the way home, Lily was quiet for a little while. Then from the back seat she said, "Grandma didn't come." I said, "I know, baby." Did she forget? I looked at her in the rearview mirror. She wasn't asking it accusatorially. She was asking it genuinely with that particular 5-year-old hopefulness that maybe there's a good explanation. Maybe she just got confused. Maybe it was a mistake. "I think she had something she couldn't get out of," I said. Lily looked out the window. "Okay," she said. "Just okay. Like she was filing it away somewhere." That night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus and I sat at the kitchen table. I told him I wasn't okay. Not in a dramatic way. I told him calmly that watching our daughter look around that gym for faces that weren't there was something I was not going to forget, and that I needed him to have an actual conversation with his mother about it, not a text, a conversation. He said his mum was under a lot of stress with the business. He said Amber didn't mean anything by it, it was just one of those things. He said maybe I was being a little sensitive. That word, sensitive. I went to bed. I didn't sleep. Here's something I haven't told many people. About 3 months before the graduation, Patricia had come to me with a favor. Her interior design business was expanding. She wanted to open a second location in a neighboring county and needed to put together a financial package for a small business loan. She knew I was a CPA. She asked if I could review her business financials, help her organize the documents, maybe write a brief letter of financial review that she could include with her application. I said yes. Of course I said yes. I spent 2 weekends on it. I found 3 years' worth of her QuickBooks files inconsistent, cleaned them up, reconciled her accounts receivable, and wrote her a clean 2-page financial summary. The bank pre-approved her within 3 weeks. She sent me a Starbucks gift card, $15. I'm not telling you this because of the gift card. I'm telling you because of what I found while I was in those files. Patricia's business had a silent partner, someone who had contributed $40,000 to get the business off the ground about 8 years earlier and was entitled to a 20% stake in any profits or sale of the business per signed agreement. That agreement was buried in a folder she hadn't shown me. I only found it because I was trying to reconcile a payment history that didn't add up. I put the document aside, finished her package, and didn't mention it. But I remembered it. The silent partner was a woman named Cynthia, who had been Patricia's closest friend for about a decade before they had some kind of falling out. From what Marcus had told me, they stopped speaking about 6 years ago. Patricia never talked about her. Cynthia's stake in the business had never been formally dissolved. After the graduation, after the word sensitive, after I lay awake staring at the ceiling thinking about Lily saying, "Did she forget?" I opened my laptop. I did not do anything illegal. I want to be extremely clear about that. I am a licensed CPA. I know exactly where the lines are. What I did was find Cynthia's professional contact information. She was listed as an accounting consultant on LinkedIn, still in the Columbus area, and I sent her an email. 3 sentences. I told her I was a CPA who had recently reviewed Patricia's business financials on a professional basis, and that in the course of that review, I had come across a partnership agreement that appeared to still be active and potentially unaddressed. I told her she may want to consult with her own attorney regarding her interests. I sent it on a Wednesday morning. Lily was eating Lucky Charms and watching Bluey. I closed the laptop and made my coffee. I didn't tell Marcus. I didn't tell anyone. The following Wednesday, Marcus came home from work early. He sat down across from me at the kitchen table. Lily was at my mum's, and he said his mother had called him that afternoon in tears. Cynthia had contacted Patricia through a lawyer. Given that the partnership had never been formally dissolved and the business had since grown significantly and was now in the process of expanding, Cynthia's attorney was arguing her 20% stake was worth considerably more than the original $40,000 investment. Patricia's lawyer had confirmed the agreement was valid. They were looking at a potential claim that could freeze or significantly complicate the second location financing. Marcus looked at me. "Did you have anything to do with this?" I said. "Your mother asked me to review her financials." "I did. I'm a CPA. I'm required to flag things that look unresolved." That was technically true. He stared at me for a long time. "She's going to lose the expansion," he said. "She may," I said, "or she'll settle with Cynthia and move forward. That depends on your mother." Megan, Marcus. I put my hands flat on the table. I kept my voice very even. "Your daughter stood in that gym and looked around for her grandmother. She asked me in the car if her grandmother forgot. She's 5. I am done making myself small so your mother feels comfortable. I am done." He didn't say anything. "I didn't do anything wrong," I said. "Your mother had an unresolved legal agreement. Cynthia had a right to know." I told her, "That's it. What happened next happened over the following 6 weeks, and I won't pretend it was clean or painless. Marcus and I were already in trouble, had been for a while if I'm honest, and this cracked whatever was left open. He moved out in July, we filed in August. We used a mediator, which I insisted on, and the divorce was relatively civil by the standards of these things. We had a parenting plan in place by October. Lily has 2 bedrooms now. She seems okay. Kids are more resilient than we give them credit for, and also more perceptive. Patricia settled with Cynthia out of court. From what Marcus told me later, because we are co-parents and we do still communicate, Patricia paid Cynthia a lump sum from the business account, which wiped out most of her capital reserve, and the second location was put on hold indefinitely. The business is still running. Patricia is still working. She didn't lose everything, but she lost the expansion she'd been building toward for 3 years, and she spent most of that fall dealing with lawyers instead of tile samples and fabric swatches. Amber sent me a text in September that said, "I hope you're happy with yourself." I read it, set my phone down, and went back to helping Lily with her Halloween costume. We were going as a team. I was the zookeeper and Lily was the lion, which was her idea entirely. Here's the thing I keep coming back to. I didn't do what I did to punish Patricia. I want to believe that. I did it because I was at the end of a very long rope, and someone had to do something, even if that something was just a quiet email from a woman in a cardigan drinking her morning coffee while her kid watched cartoons. But I also know that Lily's face in that rearview mirror, the way she said, "Did she forget?" that careful, too grown-up resignation in her voice, that face is what I was carrying when I opened that laptop. That's the honest answer. Last spring, Lily started first grade. On the first day, I stood at the end of the driveway and watched the bus pull away. She had a bluey backpack and her hair in 2 braids, and she turned around and waved at me from the window. I waved back until the bus turned the corner. Then I went inside, made my coffee, and sat down at the kitchen table in the quiet. The house was small and it was mine. The work I had was real and it was good. The daughter I had was healthy and she was brave, and she already knew, at 6 years old, to make sure nobody sat alone at lunch. I thought about everything that had happened in the last 12 months, and I felt, for the first time in a long time, like I could take a full breath. It wasn't revenge I was after. It was just this. Just the quiet. Just the coffee. Just the coffee. Just the bus turning the corner with my daughter in it, safe and waving. I've thought a lot about the word consequence. Not in a dramatic way, not the movie version where someone gives a speech and the villain crumbles. The real version is quieter. It's a Wednesday morning. Your kid is eating cereal. You open a laptop and type 3 sentences, and then you close it and make your coffee, and the world just keeps going. That's what I keep coming back to when I think about Patricia and everything that followed. She didn't lose her business because I was angry. She didn't lose her expansion because I wanted revenge. She lost it because she had spent years cutting corners she assumed no one would ever look at. A dissolved friendship she never formally dissolved. An agreement she buried and forgot. A woman she'd written off who turned out to have a very legitimate claim. I just happened to be the person who found it, and I happened to find it because she'd asked me to help her, and I was good enough at my job to actually do it right. That's the thing about integrity in your work. It's not always glamorous. I spent 2 weekends reconciling QuickBooks files for a woman who sent me a $15 gift card as a thank you. But I did it properly because that's who I am, and because of that, I saw clearly what she'd tried to hide. Not from me. She hadn't even been hiding it from me specifically. She'd been hiding it from herself, the way people do when they quietly decide that certain things don't have to be accounted for. Everything has to be accounted for eventually, not because of some cosmic scoreboard, just because that's how things actually work. Agreements don't dissolve themselves, debts don't disappear, and people who have been quietly writing off other people, their daughters-in-law, their grandchildren, women in cardigans who drive Hondas, those people sometimes discover too late that they fundamentally misread who they were dealing with. I think about Lily in that back seat asking if her grandmother forgot, and I think about what I want her to learn from watching me move through this. Not that you get even, not that you wait and then strike. What I want her to see is that you keep doing your work with care. You keep showing up for the people who matter, and you refuse, quietly, without drama, without apology, to make yourself smaller than you are so someone else can feel larger. That's not a lesson I can give her in a speech. It's one I can only give her by living it. The resilience part, the getting through it part, that didn't come from what happened to Patricia. It came from Lily waving at me from the bus window. It came from the teacher saying, "Lily always makes sure nobody sits alone at lunch." It came from the fact that even in the middle of everything falling apart, I kept my work, kept my daughter, kept myself. Those things don't happen automatically. You build them, slowly, in the ordinary days that no one makes videos about. I'm not the same person I was the morning of that graduation. I'm quieter in a good way. I'm less interested in being understood by the wrong people. I'm more interested in the window and the coffee and the bus turning the corner. That's enough. That's more than enough.